So we're now joined by the head coach of the Spiders, Dan Chemotti. Coach, I want to start just by talking about your conference as a whole, because the SoCon between yourself and High Point made so much news last year in the non-conference schedule. When you look at how crazy your conference has become just in your short time at Richmond, what do you see?
I see a lot of hungry programs, a lot of hungry coaches. Um, uh, Teams just competing for respect day in and day out, week in and week out, in conference and out of conference.
What is it like to watch a team like High Point go and do what they did in the non-conference, and you guys knock off Notre Dame, and then know at the end of the year the competitiveness between two programs like yourself? You throw in Jacksonville and some others, and all of a sudden you're looking at 2, 3, 4 teams that all feel like they want to be in the NCAA tournament, and you're looking at, you got to win that thing just to get in.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's success out of conference. Number one, it raises the profile of the conference. It raises the the competitive juices in conference. And you're right. Whether it's High Point, Air Force, Jacksonville, Furman, Mercer, Bellarmine. I mean, you look back at the games against us and any of those teams, Air Force and any of those teams, High Point and any of those teams, Jacksonville and any of those teams, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to find a lot of close matches.
Let's look at your team. You return your leading scorer in Ryan Lansbury from a year ago. He's a guy that I remember watching play for Canada in the U19s, and I was impressed by him then. What have you seen in his first couple of years with the Spiders?
Ryan has been exactly who we expected him to be when we recruited him. He's a tremendous goal scorer, tremendous playmaker. He wasn't even fully healthy last year either. So that's kind of the scary thing, which, wasn't really well known out there. So he's getting himself, back and closer to full health. We gave him the fall off this fall because, right after our season, he went up to Canada and played in a grueling, junior A schedule. But there's so much more, ability, for him to show off too. So we're excited for his development. I actually had a great meeting with him today, talked a lot about, some of the things that, we're going to be looking for from him to take a step forward, both, for him as a player and for us as a program. And he's got all the ability in the world, and he's got the intangibles to go along with it. So I'm excited to be a part of his process moving forward.
And on top of that, offensively, you bring back 3 of your top four scorers. What does that continuity mean for your offense and your ability as a coaching staff to be able to work and build on what they did a year ago?
It means a tremendous amount. Ryan coming back, the whole first midfield returns intact. Those guys are, pretty dynamic. 2 of those 4, returners were All-Americans last year. That's very significant for our program. And quite honestly, after those guys, it's going to be a heck of a competition. And, I keep telling people we got some, we got some good problems as a coaching staff. We got some talented players that we got to find some time for. We've never had quite the same amount of depth as I think that we have this year. So, what that means and looks like when the dust settles is, still to be determined, but I'm anxious to, have some really competitive practices and, some guys who work really hard during the winter holiday here.
What's been the key for you guys as a staff in terms of the recruiting, in terms of keeping this consistency? Because I think the thing that shocked me is not only do you guys burst onto the scene when you become a Division I program and get to the tournament, but your consistency in competing with ACC-type programs and competing in the SoCon has been there really since the beginning. How have you guys continued to keep that rolling year after year as you lose super talented classes on and on?
Great question. I think a lot of our focus here at Richmond is on us, and I think that leads to player development. I think it leads to personal development. I think it shows itself in leadership. and some of those intangible things, culture, those are some things that we've focused on, and kind of learned early on in this profession that those are some of the important things that to be able to, they're going to help you get to where you want to be, and hopefully help you stay there once you get there, and that's proven to be true right now, and we're just going to keep, we have our recipe, and we're just going to keep sticking to it, because you're right, we have had some success so far, and no matter who graduates, it seems like we got another group ready to step into some important roles, and a group that's ready. So hopefully that'll be the case this year. We do lose 2 starting attackmen from a year ago, talented players and individuals. So we're going to have to replace those guys to be able to keep this thing going. But we do return a lot, and we're excited about that. And I think we've got 2 leaders right now, two captains who are just outstanding leaders, and that's just been a big part of our success. Like I mentioned, is that leadership. So those guys will be leading the charge, and we'll see what we can do.
You beefed up your coaching staff quite literally in the addition of your new volunteer assistant coach in Logan Greco. What's it like to have a guy coming fresh off a national championship be infused into your program?
Yeah. So we've always, we've wanted to fill the locker room with players and coaches who understand what it takes to win. Not, solely that, but, that's been, part of the criteria. And, we added 2 guys this, this off season or this summer, both who competed in the Final Four. Logan Greco being a starting defenseman for the, Virginia team that won the national championship. That's just, he showed very early on in the process, why we should consider him, the way that we did. And, he stuck out amongst the masses, looking for that volunteer spot. He's done a great job, being a young guy. He relates to, our young guys still, and has created a great connection with those guys. He's coaching a position he's never played before right now. He's helping with the defense. He's working with the goalies as well, and really puts a lot of time in, learning that position, and doing a great job coaching those guys. And then, the other young man, John Hogan. John Hogan joins us after 2 years at Penn State. He helped with the offense there. He worked with the face-off unit there. He's doing all that same stuff for us here, and both those guys have proven that they can handle a lot of responsibility. And you look at the Coach Hogan and the positions he coached, and where those positions were statistically, across the country. We're expecting the same thing from them, here as well. So their man up was first in the country, and they were number 1 in the country in so many offensive categories, and their face-off guy was top 10 in the country. He had a hand in all that. So we're excited about both those guys, and our staff got a little bit shorter, but they certainly they got a lot of experience, and they're doing a great job.
I'm glad you mentioned Coach Hogan, because all I heard was rave reviews about him around that Penn State coaching staff over the last couple of years. Finally, you mentioned the goalie position. You bring back Jack Rusbolt, a guy who had some good success for you a year ago. What do you see at that position in particular as you look ahead to the spring?
I see a bunch of guys who are, competing the same way, we're competing at every other position. Jack won the job last year. We won a conference championship with Jack in the goal. He was the most outstanding player in the conference tournament. He was playing his best lacrosse as of late. Statistically, I think he finished very strong. He grew a lot last season in a variety of different ways, and it's his position. He's backed up and supported tremendously by Blake Goodman, who was our starting goalie in 2018 when we also won a conference championship. So having 2 guys, at that position that we can rely on, allows us to sleep, really well at night. But those guys are great friends. They compete really, really hard. They have different strengths, so if one guy is not seeing it, the other guy, has a chance to. And we got a talented freshman, in here too, that's, just waiting for an opportunity. But it is Jack's job, and he played at another level, this fall than we thought he was even capable of. So we're just going to keep growing in that department. And again, it's we got great guys, but yeah, Jack's the guy, and hopefully we can build off of the momentum that we and him built up to finish out the 2019 season.
Well, Coach, I know you guys are looking forward to the spring. We can't wait to see you guys in action. We appreciate the time, and we'll catch up again soon.
Awesome. Travis, thanks for having me on. Big fan. Look forward to hearing from you guys again. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.